Do you know how I arrived in New York? On the train at Grand Central. And I had 15 boxes. And I moved the boxes, like I'd move them 10 feet, and one box, another, one box and one box. And that's how I got out of Grand Central. There was no one to help me with my boxes. And I moved into the Y.
That there was a production company maybe that you worked
Hurrah Productions. God, I can't believe you remember that.
Because one of the stories I remember you told me was that, one of your jobs had been to stencil a box.
Yeah.
I gotta get out of my mother's house. I'm living in a tiny little room in the back of her apartment. I can't be a photographer.
And he was a cigar-smoking movie guy. And he was too cheap to hire a professional.
But I worked for one of the most abusive photographers known.
Yeah, but you pulled it off. So first he hired me to paint a case, and then he found out that I studied film or whatever.
And she didn't yell at me for a year. And then she wasn't thinking. It was one day, I don't know what we were setting up, and she yelled at me. I said, "You know the deal," and walked out the door.
And, I was suddenly doing sound on films of his, and I don't think I did it that well. And then editing films and stuff like that.
So you really did get an education there.
In fact, every season the dad would scream and yell that the new ads I was showing him were the worst ads he'd ever seen. Why can't they be like last season? And I would always say, last season you hated these, But I was yelled at.
I felt alone. And I used to go by restaurants and look in windows and push the fog away, and there would be people sitting around a table. Right. 8 people, 10 people, and I would so much want to be at a table with 8 or 10 people.